there was one rumor that was put in there that I actually did read about today. Another report out there saying that the Cubs are mildly interested in Josh Hader. And I said
They've
last week.
They've been connected a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said it last week, and I'll say it again. I will be irrationally angry.
I'm going to have to delete some tweets on that. Yeah.
I will be irrationally angry if Josh Hader is a Chicago Cub.
No, like, the thing is, like, with him, it's absolutely, like, a good signing to Josh Hader. To bring a guy,
yeah, but
closer
I hate it. Ryan, have you considered that I hate it?
But what I'm saying, like in
it doesn't
general,
necessarily have to do with the fact that he is who.
So here's what I'm saying. It's like in general, because I know where you're coming from. Is like if they're spending all this money on a closer or just on the bullpen in general, you're losing out on money you could spend elsewhere, right? I completely understand it. Josh Hader, like on the surface, is like absolutely an upgrade for the Cubs bullpen. Is a guy you would want to bring in and have as your closer. Absolutely, as a baseball player, whatever off the field stuff. I don't, that's besides the point. But what I look at is, I'm just saying in a general sense as a baseball player.
Yes.
But what I'm looking at it, and again, from a baseball sense, it just doesn't strike me as a move the Cubs would do.
Yeah. I
think it does. I think their connection to it does speak to.
I think Craig Counsell has a lot to do with it.
Counsell for sure, and like the way he's used bullpens in the past, and just I do think it speaks to. I would be very surprised if we saw the Cubs commit like massive money and years to relievers, but I do get the sense like their bullpen fell apart. It was a huge reason they did not make the playoffs. Some, maybe most, would argue it was the number one reason they didn't make the playoffs, right? The idea that the Cubs would maybe spend a little more in that area than we've seen them, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. Like it needs to get fixed, and because it was bad. And
who were we talking about the other day? Robert Stevenson. Like, when we're talking about like multi-year deals, maybe that could be a guy because he's 30.
Yeah.
He's kind of been rising the last few years. Like, I can see that. I'm saying like a longer-term big money deal for a reliever. I don't see it, but I think they.
Go ahead. I'll finish.
No, I was just going to say, I think I still never see them doing like a big, massive deal for a closer or something like that. But I think if they can do short-term stuff, I think maybe we see them widen their openness to deals for relievers even just a little bit more than they have in the past, right?
Yeah.
Instead of only just doing these like reclamation project type things and international guys and stuff like that to try to like make it work, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to address it in a little more like
a sure way.
Certain way. Yes, exactly.
Yes. And I'm not minimizing anything that happened to Josh Hader, like personal life type stuff. I was speaking strictly from a baseball sense.
I'm looking at it strictly at a baseball sense too, because I just don't see the Cubs, if they were to sign Josh Hader, and according to MLB trade rumors and Fangraphs, they project this guy getting 4 or 5 year deal, $100 million contract.
That's a lot, isn't that?
That's a lot for a guy that's going to pitch in the ninth inning.
I would be stunned if they did that.
Didn't Edwin Diaz get like 5 years, $100 million or something like that from the Mets? Like around there?
I would just be stunned.
If the Cubs had proven to me that they are going to spin like the Mets or the Padres did last offseason, then sure, I'd be all about it because I'd feel like, all right, well, they're going to get Hader and they're going to sign Ohtani and they're going to bring Bellinger back and they're going to trade for Soto and we're going to see if this is going to work or not, right? But if they sign Hader to that kind of contract, I just don't see them adding to the offense that they need to add. You know what I mean? So I do think that the rumor is just kind of like, oh, they've called to see, what you're looking for or whatever, and then that's about it. And if I'm wrong, if they sign Josh Hader and then they go and still sign Ohtani or whatever, then I'll put my hand up and say, all right, I was wrong. But I just don't envision that happening.
I don't see it. It would be like, it would just be completely different than what Jed's philosophy has been to build bullpens at this point.
Right. So,
but I'm not surprised to hear those rumors. It's an area they need to address, and you can be confident in some of the guys you're bringing up or expanding roles, things like that. But they were clearly unprepared for the end of the year last year. It cost them dearly, and they're going to need to enter this season giving Craig Counsell a bullpen that he can trust from the gate to win games and manage how he wants to win games. Because I think that ultimately became the problem down the stretch, is you saw like 3 guys mostly be reliable for Ross and company. And when those guys weren't available, or if you're trying to manage their innings, well, that's not managing to best win the game, right? Because you're thinking of these other things. Like, we only have a few good guys. If I use them today, do I have them tomorrow? Because now I don't trust any of these other guys. You need to put Counsell in a position to succeed. One of the biggest areas that I think when you watch the Cubs play the Brewers, if you thought Craig Counsell is really good at this, we always lose to the Brewers, it's very frustrating. That was one of the main areas. It felt like they got those matchups right every single time. Didn't matter who came out of that bullpen, how many pitching changes they made. You felt like the Brewers were doing it right, and they had some sort of edge on the Cubs as they were doing it, right? We can't hit this guy. He doesn't even throw that hard. Or how is this guy getting this many outs? You need to put them in a position to succeed that way. And I'm not saying you need to go sign a 5-year deal for a reliever, but like, you can only sign so many reclamation projects or guys that are over 35 and like hope that they can still be good, things like that. Like, you can only do that so many times, right? At some point you need to get like surefire power in that bullpen. So I'm not surprised to see more rumors like that.
5 years, $102 million, by the way, for Edwin Diaz. That was the contract he got.
And he missed all of last season.
It's a losing proposition. Like, historically, it is not a good way to spend
And that's
money.
why, like, me and Ryan said this, I think, on Monday, because we were talking about relievers. Like, the Cubs went into 2016 with Hector Rondon as the closer. I think at this point, you know, going into 2024 with Albert Alzolay as your closer, tentatively, if they improve the roster dramatically, and you go into this next season with Albert Alzolay as your closer, and you get to the deadline, and your one big missing piece is like that big, like closer, and you need to do like what the Diamondbacks did when they traded for Paul Sewald, then fine. Like, the Cubs have the farm depth to be able to trade for someone like that, and you know there's always going to be someone available. Year in and year out, there is a big closer available at the deadline. And I know that people want to hold on to prospects and not move prospects for whatever, but they moved Gleyber Torres and they won the World Series. All right, I'm willing to go down that path rather than give this big contract to a guy like Josh Hader, and that doesn't mean don't fix the bullpen. It means get some guys that can get you to the 9th inning for a guy like Alzolay, who has saved 20-some games last year, and he was effective
closer. He may not be among the elite closers, but he got the job done.
We all silly like the mayor.